This may come as a surprise to many, but I've never actually built a full dollhouse before. Now you see me make those small 1 to 24 scale kits, but those are pretty basic and come with everything including furniture and even accessories. What I'm talking about is a full 1 to 12 scale huge dollhouse where a kit just includes the structure and nothing else. All the interior finishing, walls, floors, furniture, decor is completely up to you. I have heard that these take years to complete and can be a work in progress for a lifetime. So if that hasn't scared you away yet, keep watching. I'm building this kit by Real Good Toys. It's called Victoria's Farmhouse and it's absolutely massive. I think this will be the perfect home for the kitchen I built in my previous video. The instructions are pretty simple for the base and first story walls. Everything fits together like a 3D puzzle. However, if you've been following me for a while, you already know that instructions and me, we don't usually mix. These two front windows felt way too small, so I took my handsaw and cut out the middle section. This will let in so much more light, and I think a huge feature window here would look gorgeous. Then I take some standard white wall paint and roll it all over these panels. The exterior of this house has these grooves cut into it for the look of vinyl siding. This side is easier to paint with a brush because the roller won't reach inside all of these grooves. While that's drying, I want to show you one major change I'm making to the structure. In the original kit, there is a wraparound porch on the right side. I'm going to extend the house to make it wider, which means we're going to lose the side porch. However, we get so much more space inside, so that trade-off is completely worth it to me. In order to make that happen, we need to replace this front panel that is now way too short. I'm making a whole new front wall with old pieces of wood that I used to test some old laser projects. All I need to do is cut a new opening for the front door. Glue on another piece to make it wide enough. I mark lines an inch apart across the entire front. Grab some coffee stirrers and trim off the rounded ends. These go around the entire perimeter and then on the guidelines that we drew. I'm hoping this detail gives off a modern farmhouse vibe. Add white paint to pull this Frankenstein front wall together. Now we can start gluing walls into place following the instructions. But wait, there is the side wall, which will be where the kitchen sits. And no kitchen is complete without some natural light, so we definitely want a window here. I mark where the center of the sink is and draw a rectangle about 1/4 inch above the height of the counter. And to cut it out, I draw a hole into each of the corners and use a tiny saw blade to cut it out. It's not the fastest way to do this, but it's honestly the most precise without using my laser. I love this little blade. It's so tiny yet so effective. Once the window is cut, glue this wall into place. Let's turn this huge dollhouse around and work on the inside. Let's work on the flooring. You've seen me do this a million times before. Snip, lay, or snip all of them and then glue them down. The second method is way faster. Once all the flooring is laid, take a sanding block and smooth it all out. This will create a much more realistic look when you're ready to stain and varnish it later. Don't skip the sanding. Vacuum up all the sawdust and we're ready for the next part. Oh, if you already have these two long thin pieces already painted, glue them to the side opening now. If not, you can add them on later. Let's turn this dollhouse back around to add a huge feature wall. This front panel is meant to be glued on, but I wanted it to swing open and shut for easy access. To make it function like a door, I need some hinges. I'm using 4 of these small hinges. They come with tiny screws, so it makes installation pretty easy. One at the top, one at the bottom, and 2 close together at the center. Then I position this panel on the dollhouse and use some tape to keep it in place while I attach the other side. I will admit that MDF tends to strip pretty easily, so it's not a bad idea to reinforce the screw holes with glue or epoxy. Here's a trick to make this wall/door even better. To make sure it doesn't swing open accidentally and whack you across the face, we'll add some magnets to keep it shut. These are 1/4-inch magnets that I'll be using a lot in this project. In fact, I might end up using the entire box. I drilled 3 holes on the side of the wall where the front wall will attach. Widen them to 1/4 inch. That's the perfect size to fit a magnet into each. Whenever I glue metal, I always use JB Weld 2-part epoxy. It's super simple to work with and amazingly strong. Add magnets to the front panel as well. Let's go back to the flooring. Here I'm mixing up gray and brown acrylic paint with a little bit of water to create a stain for the flooring. You can use any type of stain you like, even store-bought kinds. I just like using paint because I can customize the colors. You can varnish it now, but I'll save that for later and work on possibly the most exciting part of this build, the stairs. Stairs are usually an afterthought in most dollhouses, and it's really easy to understand why. They take up a lot of space and they don't always look great. I wanted to make the staircase a focal point in this house, but also save myself the grief of building it from scratch. The kit comes with these 4 pieces for the stairs, and they look okay, but they are too narrow. I start by sanding off the little bumps on each steps. They're meant to be tread, but we'll be making our own. Here's the before and after. Now I grab some jumbo popsicle sticks. I use my trusty miter shears to cut a bunch of 3-inch sections. Glue these to the front of each step where we sanded off that tread. The steps we're creating are wider than the base and will look much more realistic. There will be a wall underneath these steps, so place this on a piece of graph paper, making sure the steps are at a 90-degree angle. We'll use this graph paper as a template to cut the wall out of wood. This is really thin 1.5mm birch that I can cut with just my X-Acto knife. Then it's a simple matter of gluing this piece under the stairs. I added some popsicle sticks on the inside for reinforcement. Add some wood filler to smooth out the gaps and paint it white. Now repeat all of these steps on another one of these stair pieces. I cut a piece of birch the same height as the stairs and reinforced the sides with square dowels. This will help the wall stay straight. Glue on the tall set of stairs to this wall. Then glue on the first set of stairs that we made. Before we finish up the steps, let's add a pantry to the side opening. This structure is pretty simple and I'm just using these wooden slats. These cut really easily using the score and snap technique I've shown in my previous tutorials. We need one long piece and two short ones for the bottom and the top. Then I cut a piece of thin birch for one side. It took a lot of measuring to make sure this piece was just the right size to slide in. Now I add in a few more panels to close off the back and add a few shelves. I got the idea into my head to turn these shelves into a wine rack, so I cut one long strip and snapped off a bunch of small strips. These act as the vertical dividers. Slip them into place and add some trim pieces to finish off the edges for a clean look. One of the nicest things you can have in a pantry is pull-out drawers. I'll build these out of the same birch wood that I've been using. You need 2 rectangles for the base and drawer front. For the side, I'll be using craft matchsticks. It sounds strange, but I promise there's a method to my madness. Glue one matchstick to the base of the drawer on each side. Then glue another one above it, leaving the middle open. Then cut a small rectangle of birch for the back of the drawer. This is how the mechanism will work. We'll use another matchstick as a drawer slide and it will slide back and forth in this middle groove. If you have access to a 3D printer, you can also design and print these instead of building each one. I love this option for whenever I have to make multiple carbon copies of a design. If you don't like the plastic look, you can always easily cover the front with wood. You can also cut out some grooves for handles. This is totally customizable. Now let's finish up those steps. I stained these jumbo popsicle sticks the same color as the floor and glue them into place. And this really ties the piece together. Add some varnish, and these steps are ready for their final placement in the house. Since I want the staircase to be a focal point in this house, they will go right in front of the swinging front door. You'll be able to see it through the huge windows and access it when you swing this wall open. No staircase is complete without a landing, so let's add that next. I use graph paper to measure out the dimensions I need for this area where the stair turns. I cut that shape onto birch and score the back of it for the look of flooring. Stain it to match the rest of the steps. Position it into place. Then I add in square dowels for structural support. We'll come back to this area later, but let's move on to another really exciting part of the house, the ceiling and the lighting. This huge piece is the ceiling for the first story and the floor of the second. The small rectangular hole is where the original stairs were supposed to go. However, since we're not using that, we need a new stairwell opening. I cut out a much larger rectangle from one of the corners. I want the recessed lighting in this dollhouse, but also wanted to be able to easily access the lights in the future for updates or repairs. So I decided to go with a semi-drop ceiling. Here I'm laying out some foam board strips just to test out what the design should be. Once that's decided, it's time to make the real drop ceilings with wood. But first, fill in the hole in the center of the floor with scrap MDF. For the wood, I'm using thin craft plywood. For that, I'm using these wood planks from Arteza. They're quite large at 9 inches by 13 inches and about a 1/4 inch thick. I cut them into strips that are 2.5 inches wide. I line them up on top of the foam board to make sure I have enough. Then I use 1/4 inch square dowels to outline the perimeter of each strip. This is what quote-unquote drops the ceiling and where the lights will be hidden. I like to add additional dowels in the corners for more supports. Then mark a line down the center of the strips and mark holes on that line where you want your lights. I space the holes 3 inches apart, but you can make them as close or as far apart as you like. Drill 1/4 inch holes where you made those marks. Do this carefully so you don't splinter the wood. I attach some of the strips together to make this bracket shape. Once you have these holes drilled, make a few more on the corners. Don't drill all the way through though, these will hold magnets. Add a bit of JB Weld epoxy and insert the magnets. These corner magnets are what will attach these pieces to the ceiling. For my design, these are all the drop ceiling pieces I'll need. I'll also be installing a few extra magnets in the ceilings for things like a dining room light and a ceiling fan. So I'm drilling some holes here and adding the magnets. You'll also want to install a magnet for every place where you have one in the drop ceiling corner. I like to stick an extra magnet to the drop ceiling corner, lay it down, and then trace where the second magnet needs to be. This makes the placement much more accurate. Once you have all the magnets installed, you can add wood filler on top and paint the entire ceiling. Now they're completely invisible. While that dries, let's install the actual recessed lights. First, I painted all these panels white to match the ceiling. For a clean look around the lights, I'll be using these 1/4-inch eyelets. I spray paint them white and push them through each hole. For the lights themselves, I'm using these fairy string lights that you can get anywhere. They're super cheap, come in all different colors, and some even have remote control options. The ones I have just use coin batteries and have an on-off switch on the case. You can cut off any extra lights from the end and the string will still work. I twist 2 of these lights together for extra brightness. Then place them above each hole and tape it down with electrical tape. This tape will greatly reduce any light bleed. Once they're all taped down, I tuck in a battery pack and it's ready to go. Do this for all the panels. Let's glue the ceiling on so I can show you how this works. Ignore all the furniture that I have on the first floor. That's just me playing around with the layouts. Once the ceiling is on, these panels snap right into place because of the magnets we installed. Now we can move on to putting up the walls on the second floor. Here I'm widening the doorway for the nursery. I decided to try out my new Proxxon mini table saw for this cut, and it definitely made this job much faster. Since I'm changing the layout for the second floor too, I'll need extra wood. I'll also be using my Arteza wood panels here. I use my table saw to cut it down to the right height and paint it. Now I have a back wall here. Whenever I connect walls, I like to add an extra layer of paint in the corners for a seamless look. As easy as it is to create doorways, you can make them disappear too. With most of the walls up, I'll lay down the flooring for the second story. Here I'm starting by the stairs because it'll be the most complicated. I overlay the flooring with the top step of the stairs to create a seamless transition. Speaking of stairs, let's make the next sets. Same steps as before, we'll just need one more piece. Take your stairs and trace them on a piece of birch. Cut it out. glue this to the open side of your stairs. We'll need this additional zigzag piece because both sides of the stairs will be visible. So unlike downstairs where the open side was up against the wall, both sides of these steps will be visible. Paint it white and add a panel to the back to cover up the gap. The best part is always adding the steps. It just ties it all together. Glue one of these to the floor next to where the previous steps end. While this area is still relatively accessible, I'm going to stain the floorboards. Alright, we're almost at the mountaintop, the third floor / attic. I first fill in the original staircase opening with scrap MDF and add on some extra plywood for one side of the floor. Since we removed the side porch, the floor that came with the kit is too short and we need to lengthen it. I combine a few panels to create the same thickness as the floor. And then I cut off a corner to make space for the stairwell. Glue on the additional floor panel that comes in the kit. These little splotches are where I added a few magnets just like we did for the bottom floor. Paint the ceiling side white. Now gently position this on top of the entire dollhouse. With the third floor in place, I can now glue on the last set of stairs. This oddly shaped piece of birch is the second to third floor landing. Same as before, stain one side. I paint the other side white to match the other ceilings. Position it right where the stairs turn. Add square dowels for support and make sure it's level. To finish the stairs, I need some railings. I decided to design and 3D print these, but I won't bore you with the details of how I did that here. For the railing posts, I'm using these thick square dowels. I added thin coffee stir on the handrail and stained all of it brown. Now just glue them in place. This step has to be the most fulfilling. Back up to the last floor. This triangle panel is for the front of the attic. The window is way too small, so I cut out a much larger one. This would be much easier with my table saw or laser cutter or any of the tools that I'm not using right now for some reason. Paint it white to match the house and glue it down. These two triangles go on the sides. and this super long strip goes on top of the roof. This huge roof panel will go on top, but it's too short now because again, we made the house wider. So I glue on some additional wood, making sure it's the same width. Then paint it so it all blends together. Glue it in place. Paint these last two roof panels and glue them to the front triangle. We're so close to being done, and this dollhouse is absolutely gigantic. I carefully turn it around to glue on these small rectangles on the back side. Now paint the entire roof black. This is just the base layer because we'll be adding more detail and more paint after. It was at this point that I decided I needed a large window in the attic, so I cut one out. I'm going for a contemporary metal roof look, so I'm using these 1/8 of an inch thick square dowels for detail. I placed them vertically across about an inch apart. At this point, I also decided that I need to turn this new window that we cut out into a dormer. I won't keep you here for that step, so I'll show you how I did that in another video. While those dowels dry, I go back inside the house and finish all the railings for the stairs. These are the horizontal railings that we'll need in the landing and in the attic. Once the dowels are securely attached to the roof, we can finally paint the entire thing. I'm using flat black latex paint. Flat paint is so great for hiding bumps and lumps, so you get a really smooth finish once it's dry. We have a lot more to do on this dollhouse, but the structure is fully complete. So that's it for today. I have so many more projects to show you inside and around this house, so stay tuned. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.